Pardon me, I'm moving my keyboard, which is at the moment just simply in my way and nothing else. So, in use in hospitals, there are many different types of systems. If you have your ISHM textbook, open it to page 420 and look at a chart that has the various types of systems that are in use. There's clinical, which isn't really something that we access. It's more for the doctors, but it can interface with our systems and give us the census. That is the patient registration or ADT system. Operational, you'll have an email. You will all have an email when you get to the hospital. They'll give you an email. Supply chain management, if you're ordering something, you're probably going to be ordering it through something like the Lawson system. Asset management, now this is where tracking systems fall in. Tracking systems are under asset management. They are not under supply chain management. Other things that are operational are staff scheduling, facilities, and human resources. There's financial and public relations. Okay, where do we get information regarding patient census? Not from the electronic medical record, not from diagnostic services or supply chain management. We get it from patient registration or admissions, discharge, and transfer system. Okay, on page 421, there's several bullet points. I'm not going to go over all these, but there's a couple that I'd like you to know, so we can separate what is materials management and what is sterile processing. So if you're using a supply chain management system, you are doing materials management duties. Ordering rolls of toilet paper for all of the hospital. Ordering catheters. Ordering things that sterile processing needs you to order. And this is an MMIS system. Now, if you are working in sterile processing and you are using a tracking system to keep track of all of your instruments and instrument sets and reusable equipment like IV pumps and things of that nature, you are using an asset management system. This is a tracking system. So the way tracking systems work is usually with barcodes. So if you're still on page 421, there's a barcode in that picture. You'll have a handheld scanner or some kind of mounted scanner that can scan barcodes. Sometimes they're QR codes, the little square matrix codes. You can scan those. There's a lot of information that can be stored in one of those QR codes. There are even RFIDs, radio frequency identifiers. An RFID can track things in real time. More on that later. Please turn to page 422 and note all of the financial systems things that can exist. Payroll, billing, charge description master, which is used to manage a list of services and items that are chargeable to patients, accounts payable systems, decision support systems. So I'm going to ask you to take note of charge description master. More on radio frequency identifiers. Tracking systems that are available for use in CS can forecast needs and identify processing costs for trays and single instruments. There's manual methods of tracking using handwritten tags, post-it notes, log books, things of that nature. They're only as effective as the people who are using them, which is also true about computers, but computers are a better tool. Computers are simply a tool that we've developed over, well, not myself, but that we've developed over decades. It took us millennia to get here, but we are now to the point where we can use something like this phone in your hand to be able to store more information than like the largest library. Did you ever go to the library? Do you remember those? I used to go to the library. It's crazy. Okay. So a couple things on page 423. The manual methods are just not that effective. Not in light of having computers available. And the computer systems that are available include really good, Lamborghini, top-of-the-line systems that can track everything down to the individual instruments, provided they have a code etched onto them. And then really basic systems like count sheet systems that can keep track of count sheets, but can't do any instrument set tracking. If you're getting a turnkey system, you're probably getting something like a count sheet system. They bring it to you, they plug it in, and they wish you well. A turnkey system is not a good system. Basically, it's very limited in functionality. Methods of tracking. Now here is more about RFID. Have you ever been walking out of a store or seen somebody walking out of a store and all of a sudden the alarm goes off when they walk through the door? That's because there's a small little transponder badge attached to something in their shopping cart. That's to help prevent theft. As soon as the transponder badge passes by the sensor, the alarm goes off. And this is how the RFID tags work, that you can be used for tracking instrument sets and even instruments. Yes, they make RFIDs that can be pressed onto individual instruments or onto sets, and they can even survive the autoclave. So we have really advanced a lot. When I was taking care of a tracking system, I asked the people who were continuously upgrading it and building it about RFID, and she said this is actually something they're looking into right now. They were looking for some kind of an RFID that could survive the autoclave. Well, it's been found. Okay, and where does that information get stored? Well, with the tracking system I was using, the information is actually stored on servers in Tennessee. And the value of that is, well, there's a few great values. For one thing, you don't have to purchase, install, load, and maintain your own server if you have a company that's doing it for you, and they can be in Tennessee or Alabama or Ohio or anywhere. And if you have internet access, you can access your information that's stored on their servers. This is called cloud computing. It's kind of like YouTube. You can sign into any device and watch this video. So it's stored in the cloud. The information is stored in the cloud. It does not have to be stored on local computers. Okay. Computer systems in use on page 424. Computerized methods facilitate more effective data tracking for rapid report generating and are much more comprehensive in scope and efficiency than manual systems. Yes, computers are better at a lot of things, better than people. So computer has standards, though. There has to be computer has standards for how healthcare information is being stored. So computerized standards are accepted by the Healthcare Information Management System Society, called HIMSS, H-I-M-S-S, and are used by applicable facility departments to securely store backup data. Excuse me, got an itch. So more about tracking systems. Tracking systems need to be updated continually. If an instrument set gets scanned into decontam, that's an update. If it gets scanned into the prep and pack area or into the autoclave or storage or to the OR, that's an update. So tracking systems are constantly updated. So more on the value of tracking individual instruments. Let's say there's a doctor like Dr. Fusco, and he's got his own left-handed instruments. And it would be bad if those left-handed instruments should get absorbed into other instrument sets. So if they were marked individually, with a little QR code that when scanned would show on the screen that it belongs to Dr. Fusco. Then should be virtually impossible to scan that instrument into any tray that is not Dr. Fusco's tray. Or if it is scanned into the wrong tray, you can just type in the keyboard a little bit and then locate where that instrument is. Another great benefit of having the ability to track instruments at the instrument level is because of CJD, we still don't have any reliable method for sterilization which will destroy these prions. So if it is discovered that prions were in contact with instruments that are now somewhere in the system, we can retrieve the instruments by looking into the system. Okay, not just sets but individuals. You don't realize it yet, but when instruments travel, they go through the routine everyday life in the sets, through the OR and through decontamination, through prep and pack. Instruments migrate, so what started out in craniotomy set number 2 could end up in craniotomy set number 5. So we would never know where it is unless we're actually tracking those instruments. Erica, I can see your foot in the video.
Sorry.
Yeah, okay. I'm just going to let it go. That was my daughter's sock. Okay, where are we? So some basic systems that exist. Under features of instrument and equipment tracking systems. Some basic instrument and equipment tracking systems can typically account for complete instrument sets and trays, specific equipment items, the last known location of a specific instrument set, tray, or equipment. Pause. This is 100% dependent on the people who are using the system. If somebody doesn't scan it, beep. If they don't scan it into the next location, then we won't know where it is. If they scanned it into decontamination 2 days ago, but nobody scanned it anywhere else after that, we still have lost instruments or instrument sets. So we're still dependent on the humans to do this. One of the reasons why I was pushing for the RFIDs was I wanted to eliminate that human error potential right there, because all you need is for somebody to carry something past a scanner and then you know where it is. It's possible now. It's very expensive, but possible. Okay, so you can know the last known location. You can know the cost and value of specific equipment and instruments. So let's say I put in into my system that Beam Mueller Kelly clamps cost $16 each, and then my system can calculate that I have 942, and I'm not going to do the math in my head, but then it would be able to tell me directly how much I own in Kelly's. But imagine doing that for all of the equipment and instruments that you have. So that's a benefit of having a tracking system. The number of complete processing and use cycles through which instruments and instrument sets have moved. So this is really good for making sure that instrument sets get sent out for maintenance on a regular schedule. You can set it up so that this instrument set, every time it goes through the decontamination room, it counts as one, and then it goes through bing 50 times, and then the tracking system now knows that it's time for that instrument set to go out for maintenance. What is the usage of specific equipment? Preventative maintenance schedules and repairs made to specific equipment and instrument sets. Okay, back to the usage. So if there's things in sets that are not being used, if you're scanning only the things that were used when you return them back to decontam, scan in only the things that were used. Yes, it is a little bit more work, but to my future managers, if you really want to trim down your sets and cut the fat out, make the sets leaner and meaner, you want to know what they're not using. So, and guess what else you can do? Do you think you can possibly run a report on what work so-and-so did? Yes, you actually can. If so-and-so did 50 trays, then that's going to show up when you run a report on productivity. If so-and-so did nothing all night but watched YouTube videos of Mr. Jennings giving lectures, then it's not going to show up as any productivity. So this information is helpful for educational and training purposes, or just to see what's happening on any given shift. You may have heard of shift wars, where first shift always complains about third shift always complains about second shift always complains about first shift. Nobody's happy. Every other shift is guilty of not doing anything. But looking at it from a supervisor or management position, and I've worked on every shift, that's usually not the case. Every shift has its own unique challenges and workload type. However, you could simply run a report that shows exactly what people were not doing or doing. Or you could just go in there and pop your head in and see what they're doing. I prefer both of those. Okay, I'm going to leave this off here because this video is going to be really long. It's already 16 minutes. I want you to take away everything that I spoke out loud. I want you to read the chapter on your own. I want you to take note of the two central service terms, which are turnkey and cloud computing. Watch this video as many times as you need to, and I'll see you later.